Alaska's very own Yeti.
These creatures that are sighted, these humanoid, ape-like creatures, they're very tall, very shaggy. They've got extremely long limbs. Obviously, they're very strong. I think they're more than capable of surviving in this harsh landscape.
They are similar to Bigfoot, but more prone to attack. Many investigators believe that the Bigfoot is more closely related to humans, while the abominable snowman or Yeti is more of a violent ape creature, and reports of this creature have been coming in from the Alaska Triangle.
As an expert hunter and tracker, Chuk Rowley has been looking into some of these reports, and one from the 80s jumps out at him, as it comes from none other than the commander of a U.S. military special forces team.
So I have a report here from 1988 about a military team of special forces in Alaska that had a sighting. This team went out for a training exercise. They had cross-country skis, a lot of equipment, and snowshoes.
The team were high up in the Alaska Triangle, just north of the Brooks Mountain Range. They had been flown by helicopter to a remote location for cold weather training.
Now, very quickly on their march, they see these tracks. The snow is 2 feet deep, and they're finding these tracks with a 5-foot stride. I mean, they could barely get 1 1/2 feet stride walking in this deep snow. It's a bipedal animal, so the tracks are huge.
From the impact on the snow, the team was able to calculate that this mysterious beast was in the region of an incredible 600 pounds. From that, they estimated a staggering height of 9 feet.
After a while of following these tracks, they hear a blood-curdling howl. A low-pitched scream coming from the woods, directed at them. The whole team felt it was a warning. And it was at that point that the captain decided to pull a plug on the mission and head back to the helicopter. The way it's written, the details given about the gear and the landscape, I tend to feel that this is a credible report.
Cliff Barackman is an expert cryptozoologist with a deep knowledge of natural habitats. He sees a clear link between the Yeti of Alaska and the more famous Himalayan Yeti.
A lot of the habitat in Alaska actually resembles that of the Himalayas. High altitudes, cold temperatures, deep valleys. So if an animal like the Yeti could live in the Himalayas, something like that can certainly live in Alaska.
And there is some remarkable evidence from the Himalayas that the Yeti does exist there.
Look at this. It's one of the first photos of a Yeti footprint. It was taken by British explorer Eric Shipton, high up at 19,000 feet in the Himalayas. He's put his axe next to it for scale. The footprint measures 13 inches. It clearly looks like the footprint of a giant ape.
In 1986, while trekking in the Himalayas, renowned mountaineer Reinhold Messner saw an upright ape-like creature about 7 feet tall hurtling between the trees. And in 1973, an American scientific expedition reported mysterious footprints in the snow that resembled those of a mountain gorilla. But there are no gorillas in the Himalayas or any other known large apes. The expedition zoologist Jeffrey McNeely said, "It seems quite clear that the tracks belong to an animal which is still unknown to science." A plaster cast of the footprint found on this expedition was made at the site. And the size of this footprint, together with the one in the ice pick photo, is a good match for the footprints seen in northern Alaska by the Special Forces team.
I would say that the legends of the Yeti, of the Himalayans, the abominable snowman, is extremely similar to our legends here in Alaska. It's really amazing. To me, it just makes a lot of sense that they could be a distant cousin, or somehow a creature may have traveled over here.
A common ancestor could easily have crossed over the Bering land bridge, the extended ice cap that used to connect Asia and America.
You look at the woolly mammoth. You look at horses, bears. All of these animals have origins in Asia. How did they get here? The Bering Land Bridge.
Once it arrived in the snowy, rugged terrain of Alaska, this ancient creature could easily disappear into the vastness of the landscape. While Cliff explores below the snowline, Chook heads up into the mountains to see for himself the natural habitat of this awe-inspiring creature. If the Yeti does exist in Alaska, it's landscape like this that will be its home, perilous and seemingly endless.
We're in the Alaska Triangle. This land will swallow you up.
Much of the Alaska Triangle is isolated wilderness. The snow-capped mountain ranges are dangerous terrain for climbers and hikers, but there could be a more sinister reason for people disappearing here.
I do believe that there is a mysterious, dangerous, ape-like creature that inhabits the snowy mountains of the Alaska Triangle. There have been too many sightings not to believe it.
But it's not just in the mountains. In the southwest of Alaska, below the high peaks, lies Lake Iliamna. For generations, locals here have been talking of a creature known as the Big Man. Padusha Andrews has lived in the area her whole life. She's grown up hearing these stories.
It's just different things that people have experienced, weird noises and thrashing of the trees, and we just feel like something is right there watching us.
One day, in midwinter, Padusha watched as one of her neighbors set off into the woods on a hunting trip. He never came back.
He did not make it home, and that night it started snowing and snowing. Pretty soon we had about 3-4 feet. And the next day, a bunch of guys on snow machines went to look for him. They saw where he made a fire under a tree, and then it's like he got real scared of something.
The men searching for the missing hunter could see that something had spooked him. From the side of the fire, footsteps ran off into the trees.
He took off running on the ice in the deep snow, and pretty soon there was no more tracks. We don't know why.
The footsteps suddenly stopped, but there was no sign of the man. It's as if he'd disappeared into thin air.
It's a big mystery.